Thanks, Mike. As Mike mentioned, my name is Carla Gashtak with Genbil HR Software Solutions. I'm based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, so I appreciate the invite to come down to St. Louis and spend some time with you folks today. First of all, in the room, are we pretty much CRM administrative users, that kind of the group? Anybody else kind of outside of that realm of the CRM? Anybody from HR? Okay, excellent. So that helps me to understand the audience and the crowd. Today what I'd like to do is, actually I'm going to start off with a quote, and this is a fresh new quote from an article that was recently released from the Microsoft CEO, Mr. Nadella. And in the article, the quote that I pulled out, he says, when CRM is used the right way, it's a centralized point of data for all information coming into and out of an organization. It focuses on the sales, the service, marketing operations, you name it. And that really kind of caught my attention because today what we're going to focus on is the you name it. We are going to go ahead and share with you how you can take a look at CRM and think outside of the box of the traditional sales, marketing, and customer service of CRM, and what other areas of your organization that you can use CRM and expand it. And obviously what we're going to do is focus on HR and share with you how this can be your one solution to help track the entire life cycle of your employees inside of the organization. Our roadmap for today is, since HR might be fairly new to you folks, just to give you some background. Let's talk about what's trending in HR from a technology standpoint and what's the reality, because there's a big gap between the difference of what's trending and what's actually happening in HR, both recruiting and on the training side with the life cycle. We'll talk about obstacles to change. As you know, with all successful roads to success, there's always obstacles along the way. We can't avoid them, so let's identify them and figure out how best we want to go ahead and manage and move forward. Then we'll enter into the core conversation as to why Dynamic CRM is the smart choice to move forward with, and I'll follow it up with some features and functionalities that we've incorporated into the Dynamic CRM from an HR recruiting, application, and training perspective. Any questions on that? And this is informative, so feel free to go ahead and ask questions as we move forward. So focus on HR trends. What's happening in technology today? It's all about raising the bar on hiring top talent that's very innovative and creative, and that's going to help the organization receive top results when it comes to sales and customer service and customer support. So it's all about raising the bar. What's happening? So we have innovation comes to HR. So a lot of technology has been focused on sales, marketing, and customer service. And on the HR side of it, when it comes to the employee management, there's been some technology out there, but it kind of trickles in. We do a little bit here, we do a little bit here, but it's not a full HR strategy solution on how best we can manage our employees overall. Oftentimes it's been hiring on gut feel, but now hiring managers and department managers are saying, that's not acceptable anymore. We can't hire on gut feel anymore if we're going to be successful and if we're going to continue to grow. So what we need to do is we need big data information to understand our top employees, our top talent individuals, what are their skills, their strengths, and their talents that they bring to the table, and I want to capture that, and then I want to go out and find candidates who meet that skill set level. So they need to have the right tools and stuff to be able to filter through and find this information. Next, we have an explosive growth in HR technology. So thanks to the website and LinkedIn and Facebook, it's now a candidate marketplace out there. So as a candidate, I can go ahead and look for a job anywhere I want in the world. I am no longer confined to my backyard in terms of finding a job or applying for jobs. And the same thing is true for companies. Companies right now have opened it up. It's a global network of candidates out there. So they're able to go ahead and find and search for candidates anywhere in the world they want. And therefore, the competition to hire those top talents is increasing. Then we come to employee training and development transforms. So what's happening in the world of training, it's actually not changing, but it's transforming. And what do I mean by this? Taking a look at how we store and listen to music. So if you recall, we used to have cassette tapes. How many remember cassette tapes? Okay, and if you're a wee bit older, you probably remember 8-track tapes and vinyls, correct? So that's how we used to store and listen to music. And then it changed to CDs, which was fantastic. It gave me, a better opportunity to store. It's easier to share music and or to build my own playlists with CDs. However, and then what happened was it moved on up to, instead of CDs, we've now moved to the age of digital format. And so right now I have all of my music on my iPhone, and I can go ahead and listen to any song, any tune, any album, anytime, anywhere I want to. So if I'm on the road traveling and I had a bad day and I need to go ahead and listen to Come On Eileen by the Midnight Dixies, I can pull it up and listen to it. Or if I need ABBA to pump me up, Dancing Queen, I have it available on my phone. I don't have to think ahead of time, oh, gee, I'm going to be in a mood today when I'm on, in St. Louis. I need to bring my ABBA CD tape with. And no longer do I have towers and towers and towers of CDs, and I have to go ahead and search for my favorite album. I now have it on the phone. So that's transformation. That's not change. That's transformation. And that's what's happening in the IT and training world. So it's no longer long, mundane classes that I'm sitting around listening to. They're still there. It's still relevant, and it's still important. But the transformation is how can I then couple that with gamification? How can I make it fun and engaging for my employees to want to learn and to retain that learning information? It's all about just-in-time training. So we know that we retain information better if we can go ahead and pull it up. Gone are the days, I remember when Office came out, I had to spend 4 hours or a half a day trying to learn how to use Microsoft Word. And as you know, you only retain 25% of what you learn in a classroom. So I spent 4 hours to retain an hour's worth of time. Now if I want to learn a solution such as LinkedIn, it's very intuitive. I can go online and learn LinkedIn. But if there's a certain feature, like how can I use LinkedIn to find leads or advanced searches, I don't have to go to a classroom and spend all day in a classroom. I can Google it, and I can say, how can I use advanced search in LinkedIn? And voila, what pops up? It's 101 different options on how to go ahead and use advanced search in LinkedIn. Now, I don't know where they come from, but I'm very happy they're there. So I don't know who has time to put these little snippets together, but I'm very grateful for them. But that's what's happening in the training world, and that's how people are using to go ahead and invest time into developing people. What's happening too is in the IT world, in the HR world, people are always looking for that purple squirrel. Are you guys familiar with the purple squirrel? Anybody know what that term means? In the HR world, that's finding the perfect candidate for the purple job. And oftentimes you cannot find that perfect squirrel. So it's all about hiring the right talent that you can develop and train into that purple squirrel. And then it's all about, personal achievement. So actually, raising the bar. This, by the way, is my niece. So this is a real picture. This is not something that I pulled offline. So that is my niece who's actually, that was her jump, where she jumped 5 feet 4 inches. So personal achievement, but it took team effort of training and conditioning to get to that point. And that's what's happening. Organizations are using team efforts to help build up people to do extraordinary things so that individually they can achieve some top talent. So we spent some time talking about the technology trends that are out there, but let's focus on the reality of really what's happening in the world around HR for employee management. So first of all, there's a variety of disconnect solutions for recruiting, engagement, and retaining. So you might have one system that can do the applicant tracking, another solution that can do, candidate nurturing, another solution that's going to do the onboarding, and then you have another solution that's going to do the recruiting. Oh, by the way, we have a different solution that's going to do if there's any performance or recognition. We've got another solution. So we've got multiple solutions going on. And oftentimes we have multiple spreadsheets that we might be using for candidate nurturing. I was speaking with one HR manager the other day, asking her what some of her challenges are that she faces, and she said, she goes, they're manufacturing for aerospace components, and they had to hire 2 new engineers. She's got multiple spreadsheets. She said, we were going through our spreadsheets, we couldn't find the candidates, so we had to use an outside recruiting firm. Not a problem. They were very successful. They helped us find 2 individuals. We hired them. We brought them on board. And then what happened was, it was excellent. She goes, 3 weeks later, I was going through and doing another search, and in one of my spreadsheets, I found the 2 names of the 2 individuals we hired. because we spent $20,000 on each of those candidates, and I already had them in my database, but I didn't have the right tools or the right technology to go ahead and filter through and bring those candidates up to the top and send them through the recruiting process. So it cost me $40,000 on candidates we already had in our system, in our solution. This, of course, relates to repetitive data. So having multiple systems, you're constantly putting information into various different data sets. So this leads to searchability issues and candidate nurturing, that you can't properly go ahead and find and seek the candidate. You may have this candidate in multiple databases, and you would have some information in one set of spreadsheets while you have information on this candidate in another set of spreadsheets, but you don't have a way to bring it together and to be productive and competitive. This, of course, leads to integration efficiencies. I think we're all aware when you have multiple systems and you're trying to connect them, there's some connections that work, but some connections that don't work, so then you have some access to data but not access to other data, which leads to inefficiencies. Multiple systems to support and maintain. So this affects two areas of your business. So first of all, if you have multiple solutions to maintain, it's a nightmare for your IT folks because they have multiple systems that they have to continue to maintain and upgrade as upgrades come out. And then if you do have integrations behind that, if you upgrade one system and not the other one, what happens to the integration between the two? Does it work or not? So now you got another problem. So now you have to upgrade this solution in order to make the integration. And it's a never-ending battle of keeping multiple systems up to date. Then you take a look at it from the side of the CFO. The CFO is taking a look on his spreadsheet, and he sees nothing but multiple systems with multiple maintenance fees that he has to pay out, or she. Want to be fair, it could be a female CFO. And what happens is then he's trying to figure out, how can I lower my costs on maintenance fees and consolidate this into one simple number? Becomes complex. It's not easy to use. This is both internal and external. You have a production manager who comes to you on a Friday afternoon and says, hey, we have a big project started on Monday morning. I need 3 new people in production. How soon can you find them, hire them, get them to me so they can start on Monday morning at 8 o'clock? Well, if you're dealing with multiple systems and complex systems, you don't have the ability to search and be productive, to efficiently find those candidates and bring them in and keep the production rolling. Externally, it can be really a complex system. The web interface often lacks, branding, or it often lacks branding, and then which leads to applicant drop-off. I was working with another gal. She does a lot of hiring for social workers. They're working with constantly hiring individuals to work with children with autism. So the skills and the talents that they need are people who are really good at learning, developing. They have a lot of patience. They don't have a lot of technology skills, but that's okay because in their line of work they don't need technology skills. But what they discovered is when they set up the portal, they had a big drop-off, and they couldn't figure out what happened to all their applications. So they did some metrics, and they discovered that they had a 40% applicant drop-off about 1/3 of the way through the application process. And they're like, well, what's going on? So it turned out they ended up started interviewing some of these folks, and they said it was too complex and too complicated that they decided to abort the operation. So we all know it's tough to find good help. And it's even tougher, too, if that help can't reach you and actually send in an application and apply for the position itself. Poor compatibility with smart devices. I think this is probably an over-talked conversation, but it's still relevant within the HR side of it. I mean, it's one thing to have multiple devices, but then to have these multiple devices try to be compatible with all the multiple systems out there, it becomes kind of like the definition of insanity. It's like, it's a true definition of insanity. And then, of course, with multiple systems, and if you don't have devices that are compatible with other devices, this truly leads to lack of productivity and trying to be competitive in the marketplace to hire and bring on top candidates and then to even retain those top candidates. Poor social media integration. Thanks to LinkedIn and Facebook, there's a great wealth of information out there on candidates, and recruiters can do a fantastic job of searching and finding information and really anything they want about a candidate. But they have to start to build an HR strategy behind that to determine how do I bring this information in, properly manage it, and then how do I filter it out to focus on the information that I need that's relative to our organization when it comes to hiring candidates and bringing on employees. But it doesn't stop there, because the smart recruiters, they've moved beyond the LinkedIn, and they're starting to look at specific industry blogs, and they're trying to identify who the top contributors are in those particular industries. So whether it's like in the medical industry, the finance industry, they want to know who those top contributors are, and they're keeping an eye on those folks, and they're starting to nurture those candidates. So when they have an open position or when they decide to do a strategic move within the company, they've already identified those thought leaderships within their industry that they want to ping and that they want to hire and they want to bring on. So the question is then, do you have the right technology solution to support where the technology trends are going to help you be competitive in the space? It's all about, the other reality is loss of top talent, and this happens in two different areas. So the first area I want to talk about is it's on the front end. It's finding the right candidates and knowing what pool to go swim in to find the ideal top candidates that are out there. So people in the IT world, they have many different sources that they can cast their net upon to look for the ideal candidate that's out there. The bigger question is which one makes sense to me, my company, my industry that is out there. So one of the things with, with tracking the right sources is oftentimes people use the external sources such as LinkedIn. It's a great source to find candidates. But sometimes there might be other sources that's a much more cost-effective solution that I might not know about or have the right tools to tap into, and that's the internal resources. Internally, I looked at a survey once, and the survey had mentioned, too, that when you're looking at candidates, they ask where do they find their candidates, or what percentage where do they find our internal referrals, where do they find their candidates. 7% of companies find their candidates from internal referrals. And you're like, well, okay, 7%. That doesn't really mean a lot to me. How do you compare that to the top producing companies? So they dwindled it down and they talked to the top producing companies, the top performing companies, and they asked the same question. They said, where do you find your candidates? And they said 46% of our candidates come from internal referrals. So they've got to figure it out. They've got a way and a method to tap into their internal resources and build a program around that's going to reach and find additional candidates. And if you put together a referral candidate program, oftentimes if you give an employee an internal $1,000 for a referral, $1,000 is a lot less than charging $20,000 to a recruiting firm to go ahead and find you a candidate. Plus, if you hire an internal one, as you know, birds of a feather flock together. So if you've got engineers and you've got some really great engineers, chances are they're hanging around with other really great engineers within the industry itself. So then they're going to bring their friends in. And if they bring their friends in, then you're continuing to build the culture inside the organization that your employees enjoy working for. And if their friends are there, they're not going to probably want to leave. And if they leave, then maybe their friends are going to leave. So it helps to build up that retention. Which leads me into the next area. It's all about keeping the top talent. So you've done a really great job of hiring and bringing in the top talent. But it's amazing to me how many companies out there are all about the churn and burn. They're like, we'll bring them in, we'll hire them cheap, we'll train them, we'll get as much work out of them till they burn out and they move on, and then we'll go ahead and hire another employee. Let me ask you a question. How much does it cost to turn an employee? Does anybody have any idea of any statistics on how much it may cost to turn over an employee? Any thoughts? It's a hard number. It's a hard number to really kind of figure out and calculate because you have low-wage employees. It's easier to turn and it's not as cost-effective, or it's not costly to turn over a low-wage employee as it would be if you had an executive or somebody at a CEO level to go ahead and turn. But there's a statistic out there that I found that the cost to turn over an employee is 38% of that employee's annual wages. So for simple math, if you've got an employee, they're making $100,000, my salary, I like simple math, that's $38,000. So if that employee, it's $38,000 to onboard that employee, bring that employee in, train that employee and to give them continuous training. And if they leave, there's also some costs associated as that individual leaves and walks out the door. So it's $38,000 for that particular individual. So the cost of keeping top talent is expensive. Obstacles to change. So I mentioned too, with any good success plan, there's always obstacles. One of the bigger obstacles is why people hesitate to move in finding a full HR solution that can manage the entire life cycle is because they're trying to find the one solution that can do it all. And it can meet the unique business needs of their organization today, and more importantly, that it can meet those unique business needs in the future. And the catch on that is that I don't know what my future looks like, so I don't know what needs or requirements I'm going to need in the future. So I hesitate to make this commitment today on a solution because that landscape might change, and then the solution I've selected might not meet those particular needs. So that's why they hesitate, and they decide to maybe just go with some small point solutions because it's a lower cost of entry, it's a smaller investment, they feel more comfortable moving with that. Next obstacle is finding the time to do it right. And I can't stress enough, if you're going to do it right, take the time to do it right the first time. Oftentimes, too, people will just go with a small Band-Aid solution. They won't take time to step back and think about the long-term strategy of an HR solution and the impact that that could have on the bottom line to help increase sales and reduce costs overall. Of course, budget always plays into the factor of that. So oftentimes it comes through, we don't have the budget money for it. Well, my question is, what's it costing you not to have a fully integrated solution that can help manage your human capital inside the organization? Earlier I mentioned the gal that ended up using a recruiting firm and it cost $20,000 to bring those two individuals on. That's $40,000. So consider how quick you could generate an ROI with having a fully integrated solution that is out there. So we kind of talked about, the IT trends and technology and where they're going. And I shared with you kind of the reality of what's happening in the IT and the challenges and the problems that they have. So let's kind of talk about what are the solutions or the options, because we've got this big gap. We want to try to figure out how can we close the gap, or how can we at least narrow the gaps between these two areas. And I always like to think when I'm looking at solutions, I like options. So I don't know about you folks, but I like options in moving forward. So the first option to consider is to do nothing. You could still keep everything status quo. There's no movement forward. And again, you've got this gap. So if technology trends keep moving up and you choose to do nothing and you're down here, you're going to increase that gap. And what's going to happen is you're going to lose your competitive edge to hire top talent individuals. And if you're not doing anything around training to invest into your employees and empower them to continue on, it's going to increase, your turnover rate is going to increase. So how many think that this is a really good idea or a solution to move forward with? Anybody? Anybody? Okay. I didn't think so. So you know what? We're just going to put a big X on that and move forward and look at another option. So another option is that you could upgrade the various point solutions that you have. But again, you're still going to have a lot of those same problems that are out there. Nothing's going to happen. You're not going to have any forward movement. And it really then lacks that long-term holistic strategy moving forward. It's like putting the Band-Aid on the solution and walking away and not dealing with any long-term implementation. So kind of thinking that this isn't a really good solution, so we're going to move forward and look at another option.
Sounds good to me.
Another option is to look at a big enterprise solution, SAP, PeopleSoft, Oracle. Now, these are really big solutions. And you know what? They're going to do everything you want it to do, which is great. And the question is, though, is that if your business grows or changes in a different direction, how fast can this solution grow or change with you? It certainly can do that, but you're going to have to hire some really, really expensive developers to go ahead and go into that system and solution and make the changes to fit the new direction your company and organization is going towards. So, and again, it takes like 12 months to implement. It's very costly, very time-consuming, and very rigid to move forward with. So that's not a good option. So what's left? You guys figured it out. Da-da-da, there it is. Microsoft Dynamics CRM. And the more time, I mean, I've been working with CRM since it It was first developed back in 2001. I've been a part of several different implementations and developments with it, and I've actually used other Salesforce contact management solutions that are out there, and I keep coming back to the Microsoft Dynamics CRM solution, and here's some of the reasons why. So first of all, it's about one application. It gives you that single lens view into the entire life cycle of your employees, and it connects all the Microsoft productivity products together. Did you know that CRM is the one universal product that Microsoft has that connects to every single one of their productivity solutions and applications that are out there? It connects to SharePoint, it connects to SQL, it connects to Office, it connects to Exchange, which is Outlook, Yammer, and Skype. So it's the only one out there that connects to all those other productivities. Again, it can become that centralized hub for passing information in and out of your organization. Connects to all the devices, the cloud. I love the cloud. So finally, you've got the cloud drive that you can store all of your information, and then as an employee, you can access that information from either, a smartphone, a tablet, or the computer, depending on where you're at. If you're in the insurance business and you're actually out there making a claim, you can have your Surface out there, and you can be inputting all the information in regards to an insurance claim and then pushing that up into the cloud. If you're a recruiter, you could be on-site at a location accepting applicants and candidates, and then while you're driving home, the head of HR or the head of the department calls you and says, yes, I like that candidate, I want to move on him, can we make him an offer right away before the competition swarms in? Yes, you can take your smartphone, you can pull over, you can look up that contact information for that candidate, you can dial them up, make them the job offer before the competition does. So again, it's multiple devices to be able to access multiple information so that you can respond quickly and fastly and increase productivity. It helps to increase productivity. So nice segue into increasing productivity. So it's a relational database. So you've got many connections. And as your organization grows and changes, remember, you don't know what your business is going to look like tomorrow. You don't know if your company is going to merge, they're going to acquire another organization, they're going to sell off a product line, they're going to buy another product line. You might not know what that landscape looks like, but you need a solution today that can adapt to those changes. And with a relational database, you can easily add in another relationship. Maybe it's partner channel management, that you're bringing on another dealer that's going to help you sell and or provide customer service to your organization. So it's that partner channel management that brings that information back into it versus a top-down structure where it's too rigid and you can't insert different relationships as you move forward. Business process workflows. I love the business process workflow inside of Dynamics CRM. And when you're talking with folks in the HR side and also in the learning management side of it, they excel at putting together business process flows. It took folks a while on the sales side to figure that out, but on the recruiting side and also on the learning side, they realize it's critical to have a solid built workflow process in place because they want to ensure that they don't miss an important step during that recruiting process or during the training and onboarding process. So it's important to have business process flow. A lot of other solutions, point solutions, don't offer a workflow. Microsoft Dynamics has that workflow, and the folks in your HR and learning departments, they already have those workflows. So this is a great way to take this technology and support the business process flows that they already have, that they work with and established. And of course, it's easy to use. It's part of the Microsoft stack. So if you know how to cut, copy, and paste in one area, then you can cut, copy, and paste in another area. It's flexible, so it's got lower total cost of ownership. So you know that CFO who was pulling his hair out because he had multiple line items on multiple different maintenance fees that he had to pay? He's now looking at one line item versus multiple line items from a finance standpoint. It's designed for simple and complex environments. So it's simple. You can use it for a small company and a small organization. And if you don't have a lot of resources to help with training or to help with HR, what better solution than to have the technology help you drive and help you manage that for small organizations. And it's ideal then for large organizations, and you can dial it all the way up to large organizations. We have Ford Motor Company. They're using our application to help provide training out to the employees of all of their dealerships. So it works well with small organizations up to large. If you want to start out small, you have the ability to go ahead and grow into something large. It's all part of a phased implementation and deployment. So you don't have to boil the ocean all at once. From an HR recruiting standpoint, and folks in HR and training, they like things simple. They don't want to overcomplicate it right away. And with a solution like Dynamics CRM, you can start off with recruiting for a particular region. You can get them up to speed. They can become your champions, and then you continue to roll that to other regions, and then continue to expand it throughout the HR. And it grows at your own pace. Now, oftentimes when people look at CRM, particularly folks on the HR side, again, they like to keep things simple. They think it's overwhelming and there's too much there. Part of it is that it has everything there, and you have the ability to turn off what you don't need today, and as you get them up to speed, then obviously, as CRM administrators, once you get users, up to speed, then they start asking, well, can I have this, and can I have this, and I want to be able to track this on the employees or provide training in this area. Absolutely, yes, we can do that. So you can start to turn on those features, and that solution will continue to grow as your organization continues to adapt to the solution and continues to grow moving forward. Then finally, we've got the portals. The portal solutions, really great thing about the CRM tool is that you've got it's a gateway to be able to pass information back and forth to selected groups of individuals. So some examples of portals that we have is a recruiting portal that we can set up. You can go ahead and send out all of your job postings out onto your company website or another website. You can post all of those jobs with the details. Applicants can come in, they can apply for that job, and then all that information is then pulled back and stored into CRM as CRM metadata information, and then you're starting to build a database, big data information of candidates that becomes valuable information moving forward about that individual. You can use it for learning. Ford Motor Company, I'll talk a little bit about what they're doing and how they're using the learning portal solution. They have Ford over in Europe. As they know, the bread and butter to their sales are the dealerships. And they have a really great relationship from the dealer to the dealership. But what they realize is, it's not the dealership that's making us money and providing us customer service. It's the employees of those dealerships. That's really where the bread and butter is. Those are the folks who are out there making the sales for us. Those are the folks who are out there who are delivering quality customer service on every make and model of vehicle that we sell and represent. So we have to figure out a way to be able to work with the employees at each of those dealerships to ensure that they're properly trained on how to, A, sell our vehicles, and if they're mechanics or in customer service, how can they effectively manage based on the various different makes and models. So they set up training tracks. They use the business process flow inside of CRM to set up various different training kits based on the different makes and models of the vehicles, and then they push that training out to the employees at the dealership. Once they complete a certain segment, it opens up the gateway to another training. They become certified on each make and model. Ford then has insights. They know which dealerships and which employees are capable of working on the different makes and models that are out there. So it's a great way to extend training beyond the internal walls of your organization and out to your partner channels, those organizations who are helping you sell, helping you increase your bottom line, and helping you with customer service behind that. Those are the folks you need to reach out to. Self-service HR. So employees of the organization, if they would like to go ahead and, instead of going to HR, updating any of their personnel information, it's a self-service portal. They can go in there and do it themselves. Bottom line is you name it. If there's any information that you want to capture or gather and pull into CRM, we can create a portal and make that happen. So we kind of talked about, the trends and the reality of it, and then how Dynamic Solution is an ideal fit for this scenario. I want to share with you some features that we've actually added into the CRM to help support the HR functionality role. First of all, what I want to focus on is being able to have insights into the entire life cycle of the employee. And in order to do that, fundamentally, you have to first figure out what is the org chart and where are the people inside my company, where do they fit inside of the company. So with the solution, the first thing you want to do is kind of like a one-time setup is you need to set the organizational chart. So this, you can design this according to the company structure all the way down to the position itself. So this is unique to every single company. You set up the company, the region, the location, the product, the division, all the way down to the actual position itself. And if your company changes, if you merge, if you acquire another company, if you bring on another product line, you can easily just drop and drag and move these components around. Maybe you're going to go ahead and consolidate some employees from the East Coast to the West Coast. You could easily drag and move those positions around. It's that easy to change and move the organizational structure. And then you populate it then with the people who fill those positions inside of the organization. And actually, this is all now built in the dynamic CRM. Here we have the quick view of some of the different elements. Oh, sorry about that. This is a little off my pixels here. But you can see here we've got the radio buttons inside of CRM for the quick view of information that is available about each employee. So everything that's contained in a personnel file, you can now automate it and stick it into CRM and manage it that way. So you got everything from the people information, the organization, the job that they were hired for, the job position that they moved into, their salary rate, their current salary. You can take that information and push it into payroll. Talked about the skills, the education. Anything you want to track is here. And if you don't want to track it, you can hide it. If there's additional information that you'd like to have on your employees, you can add that and start tracking it. The real beauty about this, because it's a relational database, you can have many-to-many relationships. So you can be tracking your full-time employees. You can be tracking your contractors so you know what jobs or projects that they've worked on in the past, what pay rates they've been established at. You've got your part-time employees, temporary employees, interns, and volunteers. And sometimes your employees could be volunteers. So you want to track that, and you want to have an insight into that. You can do things like volunteers on skill sets. So if you have an event coming up and you need volunteers, you can go ahead and pull in the tags on the different skill sets for volunteers. Performance and recognition. So you can help establish career goals for your employees and how they can go ahead and grow and progress into the next position. It'll go ahead and track performance reviews, even performance improvement. So if someone's on disciplinary action, you can set up a workflow and say, these are the steps that you need to go through in order to improve the process. If not, here's the outcome. I was sharing this with a gentleman a couple of days ago, and he's like, wow. He said, if we had this, he goes, there's a couple employees who would have been gone 3 years ago because they didn't have a way to go ahead and track some of this information to use to determine the individual. So being able to have a solution to be able to track that is helpful. Business process flows. We keep coming back to it, but it's a big, big bonus for folks on managing employees, and we're going to focus on the business process for the recruiting and applicant tracking. Just to give you some background definition, an applicant is the actual candidate or individual who is coming in and applying for the job. And the way you think about this in CRM is that we've got the people who are kind of like your contacts in CRM. The applicant is kind of like the lead, as you're familiar on the sales side of it with CRM. So the applicant is an individual coming in who wants to apply for a job or position with your organization. Then you have the actual position description that you can define inside of CRM. And then you've got the application, and this is where we build our recruiting application around. And what this application is, it's kind of the glue that connects the applicant with the job position itself. So in a minute, I'll show you the business process flow we use for the application component. We also have then the job interviews. If you think about the process that they go through in HR to bring on a candidate, when they've identified and qualified them, they need to set up sometimes one or multiple interviews with various different people within the organization. So they can tap into Outlook for calendaring to go ahead and find time on a busy, department head or executive calendar to go ahead and schedule an interview for this particular employee, or for this particular applicant, excuse me. You got the templates in here to go ahead and set up and create job offers. And then we also have searchable applicant tags, which is great. When applicants come in, you can tag them with whatever skill sets that's unique to your organization. So if you're looking for someone with .NET, you can apply it with .NET. If you're looking for someone that has particular certifications or licensing, you can then identify them with tags so that in a pinch, if you need to be proactive and productive, and if you have a production manager that comes to you and says, or project manager and says, I need 3 new people on Monday that have .NET capabilities, you're able to go in and quickly search and filter all of your candidates, bring those top candidates with .NET application skill sets to the top, and that's where you can begin doing, running through the applicant processing. So it helps you to increase your productivity. So here inside, this all looks familiar CRM application. So here we have an application process where we are tying Aaron Hood to a position, software engineer. And inside, then we've got the information about Aaron Hood. Off to the right over there, you're right, we have information about the position itself. You have access to the activities and the notes that you can track detailed information. You can post a resume or any additional information about this applicant. But going across the top, then we take advantage of that business process flow. So at each level and at each step, there's certain information that needs to be completed, and if they get a pass, this candidate moves on within the application process itself. The unique thing is that you, as an organization, what's unique to your company is you can set. We only have 4 steps in our recruiting process. Great, then you only have 4 steps. Or if you have 12 steps, then you set it up for 12 steps. When you get to the end, if you make the job offer and they accept it, they now become an employee of your company, and that can then launch into another business process flow for onboarding. And let me tell you, too, when it comes to onboarding, some onboarding for individuals can be highly complex. I was working or talking with a gal. She does online nursing, and she was just brought on to work with this organization. She works from home. Part of the onboarding process was to work with the IT department. They had to come out to her house and set up all of the equipment and the telephone systems to make sure that it was secure from a healthcare standpoint. But then the interesting process that she is able to go ahead and take calls in 16 different states, which means she needs to be registered in all 16 different states to be able to accept and take these phone calls. That means then 16 different states have their own unique individual information that they want to have to require this applicant to work within their state. So part of that onboarding process is you can have individual packets set up for what's required for each state, and then if this applicant is going to be working in 16 of these different states, you then go ahead and take all those packages and put them into the business process that she needs to fill out and complete during the onboarding process and make sure that she's fully registered in all 16 of these states. Once that's complete, then what happens, she's on board, a year goes by, and she has to go ahead and renew all of these applications. So if you imagine your big healthcare facility and you have a lot of nurses who are doing online training, how do you keep track of all of that? CRM, Business Process Solutions, is a great way to keep track of that. Oops, let me take a step back here. This is just a quick, this is a different view of it. We're taking a look at the applicant, Aaron Hood himself. So he's not tied to any job postings here, but again, as a contact or as a lead inside of CRM, you're able to gather and capture whatever information is important to you in your organization that you need to capture. Here, we're showing an example of how you can capture military information. They came in from our portal, so we've got the information on our Recruit portal. Then it shares about the different interviews and stuff that they have had with our organization and the results of those interviews. So again, it's unlimited real estate that you capture on these applicants. Recruitment portals. Again, the power of CRM is being able to set up, external or internal portals. Here's an example how we worked with an organization. They wanted to go ahead and on their company website, go ahead and post all the job openings. Then you could easily click on the details, get into the job. If you're interested, you can then apply for that job. And then what's nice is that information is then pulled back and extracted into CRM where you can then go ahead and manage it. The beautiful thing about portals is that you can brand it to meet the needs of your organization. So we obviously, we're showing you here the content information, but if you don't like the look and feel of this, you obviously can brand this to meet the unique needs of your organization. And then executive management. of course, you know, what's CRM without the dashboard views? So here, what's nice about this is, you know, an HR director or even an executive at any one given time, they can take a look and see the current status of how many open job positions do we have, how many candidates do we have, and where in the process are they. Same thing is true with on the learning side of it. So if you have individuals that you need to train and go through certain certifications for whether it's insurance or finance, construction, you can see where they are in that training track and how many folks are looking to, how many folks will be, the time frame as far as when they'll be certified and how many steps they have to take to achieve that certification. And if obviously if there's a breakdown, if there's a fallout, then you've got the big data behind it to go ahead and analyze it and say, how come we have so many candidates that they drop out at the fourth stage of the business process? Is it us or is it the candidate? At least you can identify the problem and then you can go ahead and search and figure out the cause. Other ways you can look at it, applicants by job. So you've got a job application, you can see exactly how many candidates you have available. Again, you can then drill down into the details of it. And then off to the your far right, we've got those application tags. So again, depending on how you decide to identify the skill sets of your candidates, you know, to be proactive then, if you need someone, again, like with a .NET certification, you can then click on that. You know, you've got 4 people who are capable of .NET certifications. You can drill down into that and start with those candidates initially. And of course, we all know reporting and dashboards, it's custom. If you can think about it, you can dream about it, you can achieve it. So that's, you know, that's kind of what's trending in HR, the realities, and why I believe that, you know, CRM is a great tool to help.